And I officially want to welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you are here. Today is September 30th, if you can believe it. Tomorrow is not only October 1st, but it also is the start of Q4. So, hello, October. Hello, Q4. Who here, everybody who's coming on here has a business, right? Because that's why you're here. Who wants to 10x productivity and 2x or more your profits in the next 90 days? Without working more hours or constantly being tied to your laptop or phone and actually having the bandwidth to be fully present with your hubby at dinner or your friend over coffee or your grandkids on the weekends because you're not always thinking about how to grow your business. Love that you are coming in, Emmy, and excited to move into this new season. So, if you are wanting to see exponential growth, multiply your time and also multiply your results, drop 2x in the chat if that is you. And as we're getting started, I just want to share a couple of things just so that you know. What you're going to get in this masterclass is not just theory. And it's not just, I didn't put 2x and 10x and stuff like that in there as hype to get you to come. This, what I'm going to share with you today, is exactly what I see most business owners missing and exactly what I did to not just 2x my profits, but to 8x my profits in 90 days. And here's the thing, what we're going to be talking about today is simple. What we're going to be talking about today is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And here's the truth. Most people don't do it, or they don't really do it, and they for sure don't do it over a long enough period of time to really see results, right? So that's what we're going to be diving into this today. And this is what women pay me upwards of 18K a year to help them with one-on-one because this is how much this matters. So don't worry, you got in here free. But I encourage you to lean in and listen for that kind of value, right? Because what is here could literally take your results from whatever you've done, Q1 through 3, and start multiplying them in Q4 alone, right? And before we're done, I'm going to share an opportunity to implement what we talked about today with my support for a fraction of that. Okay. I also want to make clear, make sure everybody knows this. What we're talking about today is for every level of business. Okay. This is for those of you who are in what I call the rooted phase of business. You're building a foundation, right, as you're growing to your first six figures. This will help you get there faster and with less hustle. Who wants that, right? If you're going to your first six figures, say first in the chat so I know who you are. And this is also for those of you who have already reached the fruitful phase. You've already reached that first six figures, and now you're scaling to your next six figures. In fact, this is the scaling strategy of the top 1%. Okay, good. I see a lot of firsts in here because there is no way that you will get to that level without this, right? But here's what I also want to say before we dive in to this. Because each one of you is called by God to your business, we are not talking about productivity for productivity's sake. You know, like where it feels good to like check off the box, right? And we're not talking about profitability for profitability's sake, where we're just trying to hit a revenue goal, so we have more money in the bank. That is the kind of productivity and profitability that the world is chasing. But as believers, we are stewards of the time and business that God has entrusted to us, right? And when we know that, then that should motivate a healthy sense of productivity and profitability because we're not just doing this to feel good or to look good, right? But we are looking to point it to Him. Drop Him in the chat if that's what your goal is, right? Stewardship should motivate productivity and profitability with what He has given us for His glory. So, before we go any further, I want to rightly order our heart in prayer because, like we said earlier, we're all coming in with lots of things in our heads and our minds and our hearts. And so let's just commit this time to the Lord and ask Him to show us what we need to hear. So, Lord, we just come before you today. God, we would not be here without you. I thank you for calling each one of us into a relationship with you. I thank you for the business that you have called each woman listening to this, whether she's on live or on the replay. I thank you for the unique gifting and ability and experience and education and opportunities that you have put in her hands to be able to build this and to serve others. And God, I thank you for just this opportunity to partner with you. And so I pray right now that we would not be distracted, that we would not be thinking about all the shoulda, woulda, couldas of the past few months or all the what ifs of what's to come, but that we would be fully present to hear what it is that you have to share with us and how you are calling us to be good stewards, not only of our businesses, but also of our time to produce fruit for your glory. So we ask your blessing on this time together today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. Now, let me ask you, how many of you think that doubling your profits or more in the next 90 days feels really kind of impossible, or at least, at the very least, very hard, especially if you have a small audience or you have a small or no team, or you have limited time that's already stretched thin. Anyone relate with any of those, right? I was in that place when I was able to 8x my profits in 90 days, right? So stick with me through here because not only are we going to be looking at what's keeping you where you are, but we're also going to look at the number one strategy that guarantees to multiply your results. Okay, no matter what your results have been up until this year. Okay, so here's what I want to say. Don't let all of those apply to me. Good, me too. Don't let your past results dictate your future. Don't let your past results dictate your future, right? So, whether you are coming in today feeling really good about the results you've seen in Q1 through 3 so far this year, and you're just like, listen, I just want to level up to the next place. Like, I feel really good, but like, I know God is calling me to that next level. Or if you're coming in and you're feeling a little disappointed or discouraged or defeated by what's happened or not happened in the past 9 months, it really doesn't matter because the results that you are going to create in Q4 are about what you do and believe starting right now, moving forward. Can I get an amen? Right? Like we are going to do this. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We have to start thinking differently. And if you've been in my world, you've heard me describe two different type of business owners. Okay. So I want you to do a little heart check right now. A busyness owner will just keep doing more of the same and get what? The same results. You know what they call that, right? Insanity. Do you know what a busyness owner is? A woman who is working long and hard, doing all the things. She's on the hamster wheel. She's doing all the things she thinks she should do. She's checking all the boxes, but she's not seeing the roadie, the return on time invested that she's praying for. And let's be honest, when you're a busyness owner, it's really hard to shut down work, right? Because you feel like you're not doing enough and you feel like you're never done. Can anyone relate to being a busyness owner, right? This was me for so long, which is why I love talking to business owners because you don't have to stay in that place. Okay. The other option is a CEO. And we don't define it the way the world defines it. We define it as a Christ empowered operator, a woman who is called and committed to growing a business that's been entrusted to her, right? Who is willing to do what you are doing right now as you're listening to this, whether you're on live or on the replay, pausing to put down your to-do list. I sometimes call it a should-do list. Anyone have one of those? To make some strategic decisions about where to invest your time in the next 90 days to multiply your results, right? This is our roadie, right? And where not to, because a lot of busyness owners are wasting time without even realizing it, right? So by the time we're done today, you are going to be able to spot those 5 unseen obstacles that most busyness owners are experiencing right now in 2025 that are keeping them from creating next level results. And you're going to start leveraging the number one strategy that CEOs are using to make your results inevitable, right? So, and I'm just going to invite you, make sure you stay on to the end, or for some reason you have to drop off, make sure you go back and finish by listening and watching the replay because I have a live only bonus or a today only, I'll say bonus for you, okay, to help you do this. Okay, so everyone said who's on live that you want to double, you would love to double your profits in the next 90 days. So I want to ask you, what do you think will help you do that? I want you to drop in the chat. What do you think would help you do that? What would help you actually reach that goal? Now, if you're at zero right now, we're not looking to double zero. Okay. So, like, let's say, if for some reason you're coming in and you're just getting started, or it really has not been a profitable year at all, like, I want you to get a number in your head of like what you would like it to be ending this year. Okay. We're not looking to do more of the same, right? We're looking to make sure we level it up. Okay. Get my offer launched. I love it. Yes, getting a launch out. Okay. Okay. Any other ideas from anyone else who's on live? Do you think would help you to be able to do this? Time alone to focus. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So true. Right. I think so often we think a lot of things will help us, right? If I had a bigger audience, right? Because more followers, for sure will help lead to more audience. Or if I could figure out the perfect marketing strategy, who's looking for the right marketing strategy? And you want to find that one right thing that's finally going to get people raising their hand. Or maybe you're like, hey, it's all on me right now. If only I had a team to delegate to, right? More support would help me be able to do this. How about this one? If I had more time in the day. Anyone ever feel like if I just had a couple extra hours, like I could actually get something done? We like to be able to double time available to build systems. Okay, so there's that time one coming in, right? Our productivity comes from more time, or maybe creating a new offer. Some of you mentioned offers, like yes, that can help with stalled results. Maybe mastering that social media algorithm. If you think visibility is your main lever for growth, good luck beating the algorithm because it always changes. Or maybe you think I need better systems or tech tools, or how about this one? If I could just get motivated and stay disciplined. Who thinks willpower is the missing piece? Now, all of those things are good ideas. But here's what I want to tell you. They can't, or rather won't, multiply your results unless you have the strategy we're talking about today. Because this is the scaling strategy that makes every other strategy work, right? The one that is going to move to continued growth. Do you want to know what it is? Someone already mentioned it in the chat. It's focus. Focus. Now, before you check out going, okay, thanks, Lissa. That's easy. I already got that. I already know that. Like, I just want to say, wait, 99% of business owners say, oh, yeah, I know that, but they don't really get it. Do you know how I know? Look at their roadie, look at their results, look at their return on time invested. How do you know if you need to stay on for the rest of this masterclass? I want you to look at your roadie. How much reach, how much revenue, how much results is your time producing? If it's less than you'd like, or you don't want to stay where you're at, and you're ready to scale to that next level, then this is exactly what you need, and it's not what you think. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a way that is going to actually produce results. So then it makes me ask the question, okay, well, why do the 99%, which may include a lot of us here today, why do they not experience that 2x, 8x, 10x results? Because of that unknown enemy that they're fighting every day that's distracting their focus, draining their time, and that's sucking up their profits. So if there was something that was silently sabotaging your productivity and your profits, would you want to know about it? So that way you could spot it a mile away before it wreaks havoc or keeps you from what it is that you want to see happen? Yes, say drop yes in the chat if you want to hear that. Okay. And then you grab a drink. Yes, good, good. I thought so. So I'm going to share it with you. Okay. The 5 things that are unseen obstacles that so many business owners are chasing or fighting every single day, I call them the 5 shuns. And these are keeping them stuck without even realizing it. So are you ready to take notes? Because I'm going to tell you what each one is. I'm going to just give you kind of a quick overview, but then we're going to actually pause because I want you under each one of these to jot down how this may be showing up in your business and how this may be affecting your focus. Okay, shun number 1 is expectations, what others want you to do. Have you ever said yes to every coffee chat invitation, every collab, every quick favor because you didn't want to disappoint somebody else? Like at first, it feels like, oh, I'm networking, I'm serving, I'm doing something, right? I'm growing my business. But what happens is that soon our calendar is full of other people's agendas. And then the work that God actually gave us to do, what happens to that? It starts slipping to the back burner and on that and someday, right? Because here's the truth. Divided focus is going to keep you from the one thing that God has called you to. And as I was thinking about this, I was reminded of Galatians 1:10 that says, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Right? Stewardship means your time belongs to him first, not to everyone who asks for a slice of it. So, right now, I want you to write down one way that expectations from others have pulled you away from your God-given priorities. What is one way that expectations from others has pulled you away from your God-given priorities? Now, there are some good ones. Yes, I do understand that we have family to care for, right? And people that we are responsible for. But we have a lot of other expectations that we are seeking to fulfill, most of the time not even realizing it. So, what is one way that expectations from others has pulled you away from your God-given priorities? And then I want you to start thinking about this shun of expectations before you give your next yes. Like, why am I saying yes to this? Is this going to help me stay focused on what God is calling me to focus on? Or is this going to be a distraction that's going to divide my focus? We have to be intentional before we give that yes. And it's okay if you've given some yeses that you need to go back and say, you know, Rhett, like right now, this is not going to help me focus on what I know I need to do right now. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, shun number 2 are obligations. What you think you should do. Okay, shun number 2 is obligations, what you think you should do, right? Now, here's where so many business owners, myself included, fall into this like we're signing up for all the programs, right? We're jumping on all the trends. We're mimicking what's working for somebody else. And we go like, okay, if I could just find the secret sauce, then I'll be successful because there must be something else that I should do. But what happens? Where does that lead us? All that effort leaves you scattered and drained and still feeling less than. Has anyone else fallen into the comparison trap? And then you find you're distracted and you're not really seeing the ball move on what it is that you set out trying to, find the secret sauce for. Here's the truth. Focus means stewarding your assignment, not everyone else's. Let me say that again. Focus means stewarding your assignment, not everyone else's. That's why in Hebrews 12, we're reminded to let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. How? By looking around at everybody else? No, by fixing our eyes on Jesus, right? Stewardship looks like staying in your lane, right? And focusing on the one thing that God has asked of you, not chasing everyone else's race. So here's my question for you under obligations. What is a should do? I want you to write down one should do, one obligation that you've been feeling that's distracting you from your own lane. One should do obligation that is distracting you from your own lane. Okay, shun number three are those distractions, like just those things that pull us away, right? How many of you have had this happen to you? You sit down to work on a project or a proposal or some kind of, like some of you were going to launch something, right? That could has the potential to bring in revenue, and then what happens? Ping, your phone lights up, right? You start scrolling, then the laundry buzzes, and so you go swap the laundry, and then you answer a text, and what happens? Suddenly, an hour or more is gone, right? That is lost time, right, on that thing that had the potential to actually move you forward. Why? Because you're distracted. And here's what's so interesting. Studies show it takes 20 minutes to refocus after each distraction. And did you know the average person checks their phone, get this, 4 to 9 times an hour? Ladies, that is hours stolen every single day because we're distracted and we wonder why we're not seeing growth. Because here's the truth. Distractions dilute your focus, right? And what feels like multitasking, like I'm getting lots of things done, I'm jumping from this thing to that thing, right? Is actually what I call kryptonite. It weakens your focus, right? How many of us are Martha? Martha, Martha, what does Jesus say to her? You are worried about so many things, but only one thing is needed, right? Focus is choosing what is better and sticking with it, even when everyone else around us is running around, even when this thing is ringing, dinging, and pinging, right? Not being distracted by tyranny of the urgent. So, when it comes to distractions, I want you to write down one distraction that is costing you both time and profits in the last month. What is one distraction that has cost you both time and profits? Because if you're not spending time on that thing to actually get that, launch into the world or to actually make that phone call or that follow up or whatever it is, right? It's not able to produce that kind of revenue. So, what's one distraction that's costing you? Granted, we could probably all list about 20 or more, right? But we're just going to start with one. All right, shun number four is interruptions. What you allow to derail you, right? How often do you block out 2 hours for deep work on something, but then, right, things just keep popping up. A client messages you, somebody needs you. Suddenly that highest priority task has been shipped away until the time is gone, right? And now you have to move on to whatever that next thing is. As I was doing some research today, I found that on average, professionals are interrupted every 11 minutes. Every 11 minutes, right? That means that we rarely get into the zone of focus where those real breakthroughs happen. So here is the truth. You need to understand that focus means protecting the space for what matters most. Yes, putting up some healthy boundaries so that what matters actually gets some time and space. It gets our focus, right? Instead of just getting crowded out by everything else. It's like a garden, right? If I don't put the barriers around, right, then what I want to grow inside is not going to be able to grow inside because it's going to be overrun, whether it's by the little critters or whether it's by weeds or whatever it is, right? The CEOs in CEO Impact, my 12-month signature program, we were reading a book about distraction. And in the last chapter, he talked about the example of Nehemiah. And I can just see this, and it was kind of just almost comical the way that he was telling the story because Nehemiah kept there are people that kept trying to distract him from the work he was given to do, right? And what does he keep saying? I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. And they were relentless. They kept trying to interrupt him and get him to come down. But here's the thing, stewardship requires lovingly holding to those boundaries so that you can finish the work that God gave you to do. So I want you to write down one interruption that you need to start guarding your focus against. It may be one that's popping up on a daily basis. Maybe it's a little less consistent than that, but think about what is an interruption that you need to start guarding your focus against. Because here's the thing. Once you can know that anticipate these, right, and you can see that they're coming or that there's a potential for them to come, we can be ready instead of letting it like always, kind of feel like we're the pinball being thrown all over the place. All right, and shun number five, or number five, is procrastination. What you delay, even though you know it's time. In fact, that's what this week's podcast was about. How many of us have done this? I'll start this launch after what? After summer, after the kids go back to college, after the holidays, right? Whatever that fill in the blank is. But here's the thing. There's always another after, right? There's always something else after that. And it's way too easy for days to become weeks and weeks to become months, and the needle never moves. 88% of people procrastinate daily. Did you hear that? 88% of people procrastinate daily, and the cost is not just time, it's also lost clients, it's missed impact, it's delayed obedience. Ooh, that kind of hurts, right? The truth is, focus requires doing what you know you need to do because it's what matters in this season. And when you delay it, you are stealing multiplication. And on that episode, I went into talking about James 4, right? Like, and how we seek God for wisdom, but then what do? We know the good that we're supposed to do, but then we don't do it, right? Delayed obedience is disobedience, and stewardship is when we actually are taking action right now. So for this one, I want you to write down one thing that you've been putting off that you know that God is asking you to move on in this season. What is one thing that you've been kicking the can down the road? It may have been for most of this year, it may have just been for the last little bit. Yeah, I love that, Wanda. In boundaries, Cloud and Townsend point out that gates aren't just meant to keep the bad stuff out. They swing open to let the good stuff out at the right time. Yes, right? And they keep protect and give space for what's inside that you want to be able to flourish and grow. Right? So, yes, this is so true. We have to have boundaries around all five of these, actually. Okay, so before we move on, here's what I want to hear. Of the five shuns, which one do you feel like is sabotaging your time and your profits the most? Would it be expectations, what others think you should do? Is it obligations, what you feel like you should do? Is it interruptions, those things that just kind of keep popping up? Is it distractions, right? That's trying to like get you to look another direction, shiny objects, squirrel, anyone? Is it procrastination? Guarantee we could probably list all five of them, right? But I would love to see in the chat for anyone who's on live, which of these five are most often coming up for you? Obligation and distraction. Yeah, right? Distractions. Okay. Now, I like to say this is almost like think about like a fun house. Okay. Right. The first time you go through a fun house, I'm not talking like the scary kind. I don't do scary stuff. Right. The first time you go through the fun house and that thing pops up, you're like, ah, right. And you kind of like jump back and you're kind of, thrown off or whatever. Right. The next time you go through the fun house and you're like, hey, you tell your friend to come with you. Like, that thing is coming when you go around the corner. Right. And so you still might jump a little bit, but it doesn't like completely throw you off. And then by the next time you go through the same fun house, you're like, oh, you don't even faze me. I know exactly where you are. I know exactly where you're going to pop up, and it's not going to it's not going to throw me off, right? We have to have almost that same type of thing around these five shuns because we want to make sure that we are not like surprised when these pop up, but that we are ready and prepared, right? That we have the focus that's going to allow us to combat those things. So if you're experiencing these shuns on a regular basis, chances are you are operating like a business owner. You're leaving the door wide open, to go back to that gate analogy that Wanda was just sharing with us, for the enemy to keep us busy and distracted. And wouldn't he love to do that, right? Running around searching for, right, the secret sauce, feeling like we're never doing enough, spending hours consuming content, trainings, investing money in things that we actually, don't actually implement. That is exactly how you can work really hard and yet get to this point in the year and still not be seeing a return on your time or energy, right? Still not be seeing the roadie that you're praying for. Can you relate? All right. So let's go back to your goal of doubling your profits in Q4. Have you ever set a goal like that in the past? And what do we often try to do to make it happen, right? We start with what? Good intentions, right? You're like, okay, this is the quarter. I'm finally going to get consistent on Instagram. So you pour hours into creating content, but then what happens? Distractions, email, laundry, right? Scrolling when you're on Instagram to do that thing, and you don't end up seeing the results because you are so distracted. Or maybe you thought like, I'm going to just launch a new offer. That'll be the thing that actually clicks. And so you spend weeks building it out, right? I call it getting in content cave, right? Creation cave, right? I'm just like blinders on. I'm all in here, right? So I'm not making connections with people, but I also, how often do we let interruptions from clients or family or team keep derailing our focus and then that thing keeps getting pushed down? Right? Or we, instead of clarity about that thing that we're supposed to be working on, we end up drowning in obligations and comparison, right? We're watching what everybody else is doing, right? Or we're hustling behind the scenes, trying to, make everything look pretty and exactly like we need it to, right? But we're actually doing more people pleasing than actually moving the needle, right? Or we're just procrastinating that thing. Do you see how these five shuns could be silently stealing your focus and your profits? So what we want to do is we want to get these out of the way by knowing exactly what we need to focus on, right? Because here's the truth. It's not that your ideas or strategies are wrong. Every single thing that you guys shared in the beginning could work for you if you have focus and if you have the kind of focus that we're talking about today. But the reason that for most of you, they haven't up until this point is because of the five shuns, right? Because the expectations, the obligations, the distractions, the interruptions, the procrastination are silently working against you. And then what happens? We spend more time consuming than doing. We get stuck working in our business instead of on our business. And the things that actually move the needle keep getting pushed to later and later and later. And spoiler alert, date later doesn't multiply anything. So I just want to let you know that for the first 10 years of my business, I was a business owner too. I was pouring in all the time, all the energy, all the effort. I was checking all the boxes, but I still wasn't seeing measurable results, especially not the ones I was praying for. Like on the surface, it looked like I was doing all the right things. I thought I was doing all the right things, but underneath, I was battling those sneaky shuns. Like they were silently working against me without me even realizing it because I was always chasing that next strategy or that shiny idea. I was always saying yes to what I thought I should do. How many of you just tinker with something until it's just right? Like any perfectionist in the room, that was me, right? I'm scrolling and measuring myself against others, second guessing, like if I'm ready or if it's good enough or, what do I know, right? And I was putting in so much time that when I was actually missing out what really mattered, which was my family. Because I was the girl that even when I wasn't working and I was like with my family, I was in the room, but I wasn't really in the room. Do you know what I mean? Like oftentimes I would bring my laptop or my phone and I'm still responding, oh, one more message, one more email, one more, like that just became the Lissaism, one more, whatever, that would actually end up taking, well, let's be honest, if you're trying to do this while you're watching a family movie, it takes like 10 times longer. So I was really not in the room and I was working really hard and I wasn't producing much results from all that time. Good. Thank you for letting me know I'm not alone, right? And let me tell you, those five shuns will keep you running in circles. They will keep you busy, but busyness is not the same as fruitfulness. Let me say that again for whoever needs to hear that. Busyness is not the same as fruitfulness, right? We just continue to spin our wheels and scatter our time and search for answers and wear ourselves out. And that was me until God showed me a different way. The solution wasn't in doing all the things and being, chasing a certain number of followers or waiting till I could afford to bring on a bigger team or even cramming more of those should do's into my already packed day. It was in slowing down and focusing on the one thing. It was in slowing down and focusing on the one thing, right? The world is out there saying, hustle, hurry, work harder, go faster, right? But actually, there's a much simpler and easier way to do it, right? Focusing on the one thing. I don't know if any of you have read this book, but I pulled this out this morning as I was thinking about this. Gary Keller, as in Keller Williams Realty, shares about this one thing truth in here, right? Like this, when you have a one thing focus, you can get extraordinary results. And what I love is that right inside the cover, He's got this little picture. I don't know if you can see this. I mean, you can see it. You can see a little feet. It says, if you chase two rabbits, next page, you won't catch either one. Right? This is a Russian proverb. If you chase two rabbits, you won't catch either one. True or true, right? But the problem is, most of us are not chasing two things, right? We're chasing 22 or 202. No wonder we're exhausted and we're not seeing multiplication in our results because if we're chasing after too many things, we aren't ever going to get anywhere with any of them. This is why we need a one thing focus. Focus is really powerful. Do you remember the science experiment from grade school where like you would take a magnifying glass like on a spring day? I remember this. We'd go outside, right? And you'd get this little pile of grass and you'd put it on the sidewalk. And then what did you do? You took the magnifying glass, right? And you put it at just the right angle where the sun would shine through it. And what happened? It would start that pile of grass on fire. And it didn't take that long for it to happen. So, like, yeah, that was so much fun. Like, permission to go out and do the little experiment today because this is what I want you to think like about the one thing focus. How did that work so quickly? Because it was the same sun, it was the same grass, it was the same everything. So, how was it that it actually worked so quickly to start that on fire? Because you're focusing the sun's energy in one place for long enough to create heat to light it on fire. Okay, so a one thing focus in business works in very much the same way. I call it, how many of us feel like we're putting out fires all day long, right? We feel like a firefighter, whether it's with our family or with our business or with our team, and we're always just putting out fires, right? And we're just running from one bucket, dumping water on it. What if instead you could put your business on fire? Who wants that? Drop on fire in the chat, right? That's what one thing focus does, right? Because just like that magnifying glass, it is getting enough attention and intention on that one thing for over a period of time in order to be able to see like the flames start happening, right? In order to see it grow. Focus creates more productivity and profits. It creates more impact and income. It even creates more fun and fulfillment. Who wants to have more fun in business and not feel like this is just always work, right? Yes. For a long time, I was just just have to check the next box, right? That's not fun. But here's the best thing, as I was thinking about this morning, I'm like, you know what? Gary Keller, regardless of how successful he's been, he didn't come up with this strategy. God did, right? Because long before the One Thing book was written, God laid out the one thing principle throughout his word. And so actually the first time I read this book, I did a little word study in scripture and I wrote down all the places in scripture where it talks about one thing. Because I'm like, I know this is in there several places. And here's the interesting thing. It always comes back to our heart. Doesn't everything always come back to our heart, right? Like I teach you guys, like, our busyness is not a disordered calendar, it's a disordered heart, right? The reason that we're not having, we're not seeing results is not, because I'm not putting enough time. It's because my heart is chasing after a lot of lesser things. So here are a couple of those examples that are in here. David said, one thing I ask of the Lord, this is what I seek, right? Our one thing matters in worship, right? We are not to have a divided heart. Jesus told the rich young ruler, you still lack one thing, right? Go and sell all you have. Like one thing matters in our obedience. We can't be chasing after and serving more than one master, right? Paul even said, and we were just studying this in our sermon a couple weeks ago, one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, right? One thing matters in our growth. And that's why in James, when we are commanded to ask for wisdom, tells us how to ask. Don't ask with a divided and distracted heart, right? Because then we're going to be tossed back and forth by the waves, right? And as I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about like how God kept pulling people back to the one thing, right? He was pointing to like, I am the one true God, right? I am the one who changes everything. But tell me if you can relate with the children of Israel. We are easily distracted by all the lesser things around us, right? How many of us are off chasing shiny objects in the desert, right? When the one true God, right, who holds all wisdom and all answers and all everything, right, is right there calling us to himself. And again, wouldn't the enemy love to keep us busy and distracted, busy chasing all the things instead of the one thing? Because then we're no threat to him and we're no use to the kingdom, right? But when you and I step into a one thing focus, then everything changes. So let's bring this one thing focus back to your Q4 results. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say this. I don't work with women who are okay with having an expensive hobby, right? It's where it's costing you more in time and money than you're getting out of it, right? I work with women who know that you are called to run a serious business, and calling means stewardship. And this is where what we're talking about today is light years ahead of just what time management teaches, right? And maybe even goal setting that you've tried in the past. Because it's not just about rightly ordering our calendar or our to-do list. Like I said earlier, it's rightly ordering our heart, right? And this is where the difference in your results lies because we're not coming from a place of management. I'm trying to keep time from getting away. I'm playing whack-a-mole all day long, right? It's from a place of stewardship. And stewardship means I am investing my time, my talents, my treasures with an expectation of a greater return. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but when it comes to multiplying your results, I want you to know that stewardship has everything to do with multiplication because we are not given something as a steward just to protect it, right? That's what that one servant did. He went and buried it in the ground, right? So that it just didn't get away. We are called to expand it, what the other two servants did with their talents, right? And as stewards, right, we need to make sure that we are watching out that what we've been entrusted, our time, our talents, our treasures, our business, right, is not stolen by the five shuns, right? And we need to think about where am I investing this to that it is going to bring a return, that is going to bring a good return, right? We call that RODI, return on time invested. And here is where, as I said in the beginning, stewardship should motivate our productivity and our profitability. It should create a healthy sense of urgency because like we feel compelled to do something with what God has given us, right? Not just hide it in the corner, right? Here's where stewardship means multiplying results. And when you read through scripture, right, it talks about a 30, 60, 100-fold return. That is what I call kingdom multiplication, right? And what always happens when there's a 100-fold return? People are like, what? And then they look to God, right? Because it can't be done apart from Him. So, as believers, our results should be expanding. Our results should be multiplying. They should be 2x or 5x or 8x or 10x. And this is not a prosperity gospel. This is the laws of the harvest, right? And when we partner with the Lord of the harvest, we are able to reap the harvest that we can never do on our own. But here's where most business owners veer off the course, right? We stay in business mode like the world around us, just trying to manage it, keep things contained under control, right? And no wonder we don't get anywhere. So I want you to think of your business like a road trip. Okay. God has given you a clear destination, but without focus, here's what's going to happen. And here are the three common mistakes that most business owners make. So see if you are making one, two, or three of these. You ready? Mistake number one, not getting clear on your one thing. That would be like all of us piling in the car without choosing where we're going. And we just start driving, hoping we're going to get somewhere. No surprise, we're going to burn a lot of gas and spend a lot of time, but never arrive anywhere. This is what happens when you don't pause to ask, what is the one thing that God is calling me to focus on this quarter? So I want you to do that right now. I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead and jot down what comes to mind right now. What is one thing that God is calling you to focus on in this quarter? Doesn't matter if it feels really, really big or if it feels like I don't even know if this is big enough to even count. Like, it's okay. Put it down because it may be that that's exactly where you're supposed to be putting your focus over the next 12 weeks. I love Wanda's in the chat over here. She's our word girl. So you and Emmy need to get together, Wanda, because Emmy loves words too. Commit means pledge or devote. When we commit our work to God, we're saying literally our attention won't be divided, but will be focused entirely on Him and that work. Amen. Right? Yeah. And when something is getting your focus, the growth is inevitable. It will, right? Because it's getting your attention. It's getting your time. It's getting, it's like if I'm taking the time to water the seeds, right? It's going to grow. Okay, so you have your one thing written down? Well, or at least the one thing that comes to mind right now that God is calling you to focus on. We don't want to make that mistake. Okay, mistake number two is knowing that one thing, setting a goal without a growth map. Okay, how many of us have set goals in the past but never get there? Right? This is like saying, I'm going to California, but never pulling up a route. You might head west, depending on where you live, but without a plan, you're probably going to waste time in traffic. You're going to hit detours. You're going to get sidetracked by all the Buc-ee's billboards every 50 miles. Anyone, right? That's what happens when you set a goal, but you don't actually map out the way you're going to get there. We just start kind of drifting instead of moving with intention. So, what is, it could be that thing you just wrote down, or it could be something else that you've been wanting to see progress on. What is one goal that you've set for your business that's still sitting in the someday mode because there's really not a very clear map? In fact, this was a question I asked inside the community this week was like, what is it that tends to trigger your procrastination? And the number one answer I got back was, I don't have clarity around the next steps. Well, yeah, if I didn't know where I was going when I got in my car, I wouldn't keep going. I'd probably turn around and go home, right? Or I'd get distracted by all the shiny things that I'm passing. So what's one goal that you set for your business that's still maybe sitting in that Sunday mode because you didn't have a map? So mistake number one is not getting clear on where you're going on your one thing. Mistake number two is saying I'm going there, but not having a clear map to get you there. Mistake number three, this one's really interesting, giving it too much time. Here's the sneaky one. It feels like progress, but it's like saying, we're going to get to California when we get there, right? That trip is going to drag on. It will cost you more time and money than it should, and you are going to lose momentum somewhere along the way, right? Same thing happens in our business. The work we do always expands to the time we give it. So without a timeline, then a project or a goal that could take 12 weeks ends up dragging out for 12 months or longer. So here's what I want you to write down for this one. What is one project or goal that you know has been dragging on for too long for you? Again, you may have a laundry list of things. I just write right now, just what's one? Because it doesn't have to keep taking so much time, right? This is exactly what focus helps us fix, right? We get clear on our one thing. What is our destination? Thinking about as we're heading to Q4, what is your year-end destination, right? So by the end of the year, the next 12 weeks, where do you want to be in this area of your business or in this results, right? Towards this goal. Then we need to build a simple growth map. What are your next milestones and steps that are going to keep you knowing that you're on the right path and keep knowing that you've actually made progress, right? I mean, as a kid, we'd watch those mile markers, right? Now you can just like look on your phone, it tells you what time, how much time you have left. We didn't have that back in the day. So you had to like pay attention to what mile markers you were passing. You could see the numbers either going up or going down. You knew you were moving, right? But if we don't have milestones, right? And we don't know like which one we're trying to get to next, it's really hard to know, am I going anywhere? And then we have to work in a 12-week cycle, right? Like put a timeline on something that's going to create enough urgency to keep us moving, right? But not so much that we're like feeling like we're just rushing and hurried. Do you see how this kind of singular focus can lead to multiplied results? Because if we don't have clarity, we don't know our destination. If we don't have a growth map, we're going to drift off course. And if we don't have a clear timeline, we're never actually going to arrive, which is why most business owners end up stuck in the ditch or circling the same exits or chasing every shiny attraction on the side of the road. Because without focus, you are leaving yourself vulnerable to those five shuns. So I want you to like just pause right now. Can you think of a time this year when you felt like you were hustling, but not really moving forward? Can you think of a time this year when you felt like you were hustling, but not really moving forward? I want you to think about that time. And I'm going to ask yourself this question. Be honest. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much focus did you really have? How much focus did you really have? Chances are, if you were hustling, but not really moving forward, you probably didn't have very much. And that's why, like, this is so simple. It's almost like it's almost like it's too easy. That doesn't mean it doesn't involve work, right? Because we know focus takes work. We've got the five shuns, right? We've got these things that are always going to be coming at us, right? But when you shift into CEO focus mode with one thing clarity, with a mapped out plan, with a defined timeline, everything changes. So let me share with you my 8X story so you can see exactly what happened for me. Okay. This happened a few years ago. I got on a call with my coach at like almost exactly to the day, like this point in the year. I remember it was like the very end of September. It might have been the 30th or maybe the 29th, right? But I remember getting on that call. And up until then, I was scattered all over the place. Like I had been working my business all that year up to that point, but my time was really scattered in a bunch of different projects. So of course my income was kind of like, hit and miss. And I totaled it up. I had brought in 5K total for the year at that point, which for some of you, like that may sound amazing. For some of you, you're like, oh my goodness, right? That doesn't really matter. But the fact that my results were inconsistent at best, right? And it was not equal to all the time I was working. Remember, I told you I was a business owner too, right? And it looked like I just assumed the year is going to end about the same. right? Like, yes, maybe I'll bring in a couple more clients and so I'll be up to maybe 7,000 or something like that. But I didn't really have very high expectations. But something shifted on that call. And on that call, I made a decision that I was going to invest my time differently and I was going to get different results. And so what did I do? I got super clear on my one thing. And at that time, it was up leveling the offer I currently had for what my best client really needed. I set a launch date 60 days out. I remember it was the beginning of December of that year. I mapped out a 90-day, 12-week by week action plan, right? And then with the support of my coach, I got into action. And guess what happened? Less than 90 days later, right? Because when I did that launch, it was about 60 days. I brought in 8x what I had done in Q1 through 3 combined. I brought in over 40K when I had only made 8K up to that point. I multiplied my results because I focused my time and I wasn't so scattered all over the place. And I was super consistent on one thing towards one goal, knowing exactly what I needed to be doing, right? And that it multiplied my results. So I want you right now to think about this. What would multiplied results look like for you in this next quarter? What kind of multiplied results would you like? Would you like to double your leads? Would you like to double your clients? Do you want to double your income? Do you want to double your collaboration opportunities? Like, what is that thing? What would multiplied results look like for you? And maybe it's not double, maybe it is bigger, right? Like I was able to at 8x what I had done in the rest of the year. And how does it happen? How did it happen for me? With supernatural spirit-led focus, right? I stopped letting myself be distracted by all the shuns and all the shiny objects and all the squirrels and all the things I thought I should be doing and all the things I saw everybody else doing and all the yeses I was giving to all the extra things, right? And I shifted into that one thing focus around what I knew God was calling me to. I had a clear plan, I had support, and everything changed my results, right? Because here is the formula for results. Time invested leads to return on time invested. It's math, it's not magic, right? And so when I get really focused with my time, it has a direct impact on my results and yours too, right? It multiplied my productivity and also multiplied my revenue. Not because I hustled harder, not because I pulled more late nights. In fact, I actually worked less hours during those days. Not because I'd finally cracked the perfect strategy. I wasn't trying to do every strategy, right? Not because I brought on more team, because at that point it was still me, myself, and I. Remember I said that was me back way back in the beginning of when we started today? But because I got focused, I broke that project into clear steps and I stewarded my time differently. And when you do that, what feels impossible before, how many of you back in the beginning when I asked you, like, how possible does this feel? And you're like, oh, I don't know. It suddenly becomes doable. And what has maybe been dragging on for months or years can get finished in weeks, right? And the fruit, more impact, more income, more confidence, more conviction, right? So I want to ask you, what is one thing that you've been dragging along for months that you could finally get done or make meaningful progress on by the end of the year if you gave it focused attention? I want you to write that thing down and circle it, star it, right? Put ones all around it. Like, where do I need to put my focus? And this experience showed me that the one thing principle, right, that this guy had written about isn't just theory. It's actually a spiritual multiplier. I call it the time stewardship multiplier, and it's why I'm so passionate about helping women like you step into it. But what keeps most women stuck in business isn't the wrong idea, it's divided attention, right? Because when we spread our energy and our attention and our time across too many things, nothing grows, right? But when we focus on one thing, even a single seed over time can and will produce 2x, 8x, even 10x or more results, right? And that's actually what led to me creating the roadie method, where I really looked at like, what do we need? What's the framework we need for our time? How do we put the right kind of schedules, the right kind of systems, and the right kind of strategies in place that work together to scale our time because we don't get more than 24 hours, whether we would like it or not, right? And scale our return on time invested, our ROTI, right? And so for today's training, we're zooming in on the strategy piece because it starts with knowing where you're going. Otherwise, you're just throwing it's like throwing money, out the window, right? If I don't know what I'm buying, the same thing happens with our time. If I don't know where I'm going, I'm just throwing time out the window, right? Any road will get you there or nowhere. But when I say strategy, I want you to know this is not like I'm not going to give you one email strategy or one social media strategy or one sales strategy. This is a time strategy. right? And it's one that unlocks every other strategy because when you have a focused time strategy, then all those other ideas you guys threw out earlier can and will work, right? But you need a growth map to get you there, right? You don't need another shiny object. You need to have CEO focus on your one thing. You need a 90-day roadmap, and then you need the support to actually stay on the road and get it done, right? And create this 12-week runway. And when you have that in place, here's the beautiful thing. You get more done in 12 weeks than most people do in 12 months without working harder. How? Just like the magnifying glass. Because you're no longer scattered, distracted, wasting time on all the shuns that don't produce results. You're focusing in the one thing that will produce results. Now, this does not mean you don't do anything else in life. Let me just make that disclaimer, right? But if there is something that you really want to move the needle on, that thing needs your focus, time, and attention over a period of time. And when you start giving it that, you will see changes in your results, right? It's not magic. It's not secret sauce. It's actually really simple. Anybody can do this, right? But most people don't because why? We're so easily distracted, right? But when we have focus, then we can multiply results over more time. And what may have dragged on over a long time, we can actually make happen in a shorter period of time. Now, there's one other concept I want to share with you, and then I'm going to share. I'll kind of walk you through how I can help you do this. Okay? Are any of you familiar with the book, The 12-Week Year? This is where the idea of giving yourself a 12-week timeline comes from. Instead of giving yourself all year, what happens when you typically set a goal in January? You're like, I'm going to do this by the end of the year, right? You get started, and then like you kind of lose track of something kind of around springtime. Maybe you pick up the pace a little bit right before summer hits, and then summer happens, and then it's fall, and now you're running, right? Okay, now here's where most people, even the gurus, don't tell Brian Morgan that I'm saying this about him, but I think he gets it wrong. And here's what's really interesting. I have had multiple clients join my CEO Focus program who read the book, The 12-Week Year. They tried to do what he said, but it didn't work. Do you know why? Because just saying, I'm going to do this in 12 weeks is not what you need to get there. It was missing the essentials. Here are the three things they were missing that we've already talked about today. Number one, there was no one thing focus. The book suggests you pick 5 to 7 goals. I disagree. If you want to see measurable growth, then you need to pick one thing that you really want to zero in your time and attention on. Who has time to hit 5 or 7 goals in the next 12 weeks? Probably not most of us, right? The second thing it was missing was no clear roadmap. Like the book just simply said, each week, check these boxes, but there was no step-by-step plan how to get from where you are right now in this area to where you want to be at the end of 12 weeks. So you don't really produce measurable results. You're just kind of, did I check the box or not? Right? And you're not really seeing the growth. And then it also is missing strategic assessment because it doesn't account for how do we navigate the shuns, right? The things that block our progress, right? The things that are interruptions or distractions, procrastinations, expectations, obligations, right? No wonder people fall off track before the 12 weeks are up, right? And our growth takes so much longer. And this is exactly what happened to these clients. It's sitting on your bookshelf. Good. You don't have to read it, Melissa, because I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this in a way that it doesn't work just reading the book. So far, everyone I've talked to that's read the book and said, hey, Lisa, I tried this, it failed, right? Because they were missing the one thing focus, because they were missing a like a clear growth map, and because they were missing this opportunity to have strategic assessment, right? And that's exactly where CEO Focus fills the gap because it puts those things together. Yes, we got the one thing focus in the 12-week year, but now it couples it with the growth mapping process and accountability in a CEO mindset, right? So that you will see measurable results instead of just spinning your wheels or just checking boxes and say, well, I checked 9 out of 10 boxes this week. I think that's good. Like we're looking for a good roadie, right? Okay. And here's the thing. What I teach you inside CEO Focus is not just time management. I fix all the mistakes that are leaving those business owners spinning the wheels, and we implement all the essentials that all these other programs and books and philosophies are missing, right? This is how we not only get focus, but we stay with that focus until we hit that finish line, right? Otherwise, that goal, that project, that thing that you really want to see happen by the end of the year is just a wish. But when we've got these things in place, then it will help us to actually see progress on that. Okay, so if you want to build your audience, yes, you can, but only when your attention and energy are focused on the one thing, right? The one platform, so it will actually convert because you're giving it enough time and attention. If you're looking for that new marketing strategy, yes, it can work because when you have focus, it's going to multiply the effectiveness of that tactic. So when you choose to focus on one, over time, you will see results. It's when we keep jumping from one thing to the next, right? Now, I can't give you more time, but when you choose focus, you actually are going to get more time in the day because you're not letting it slip through all the cracks, right? And it will create more roadie, right? So again, think of it like you're watering this plant. I had this conversation with the CEO yesterday, right? If I have one, say I have one bottle, right? And I've got 10 plants lined up on my deck, right? If I'm, pouring a little bit into each one, they're going to get a little bit, but they're not going to get very much. But if I just have one plant that I am just consistently pouring right into, that is going to get exactly the amount of moisture that it needs to really see the growth. And that is exactly what we want to do as business owners, so that at the end of 2025, how many of you want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant? You've been faithful with a few things, now we'll trust you with more, right? Because when we are faithful and focused with the little, right, our time, our focus, our energy, God multiplies results in ways we can't even imagine, right? He is exceedingly abundantly beyond all that we could ask or imagine, and it continues to scale as we are partnering with Him. So I want to invite you guys. Some of you are already part of CEO Focus, some of you are not. But whether you're already in with me or whether you're not, do you know what's going to happen as soon as you get off today? Life is going to get busy, right? All of those shuns are going to pop up. A client DM is going to pop up asking for a quick answer. The laundry buzzer is going to go off and suddenly feel urgent. Your inbox is going to start calling your name. The dog's going to be pawing at the door. The kids are going to be, mommy, 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 whatever. Like, and then it's time for dinner and you're thinking about all these other things and not what you need to do to grow your business in Q4. And before you know it, right, October is going to be getting away from you, and then it's going to be November and December, and you'll be dropping the ball on another new year, left asking what everyone else is asking that time of year. Where did the time go? How many of us have asked that, right? The end of a year or the end of a month or even the end of a week or a day? What did I even do today? That's because without focus, it will be easy to get pulled in a whole bunch of directions, right? The expectations, the obligations, the interruptions, distractions, procrastination will creep in. And before you know it, that priority that really mattered, your one thing that God is calling me to move the needle on this thing, will get pushed to the side or kicked down the road. That is exactly why CEO Focus exists, right? I want to help busy, easily distracted women like me and like you stop spinning your wheels and steward your time, your resources, the passions that God has put on your heart to make kingdom impact. And here's how we do it. It's really simple. Number one, we plan it out. We identify your one thing, not 20 things, not the next shiny idea, but the one single project, goal, offer, right? That if given your full attention, will truly move the needle on your business and your kingdom impact. Because when your focus is clear, then every decision, every task, every moment of time works for you instead of against you, instead of keeping you scattered. Then we map it out, right? We take the 12-week year philosophy, but we actually create a roadmap to get from where we are to where we want to be, right? With a stress-free timeline, keeping in mind what the next few months hold, right? We're going to break your big vision into manageable, actionable steps with monthly milestones and weekly milestones. So you're not overwhelmed or wondering if you're ever going to get there. I remember asking my dad on road trips, are we there yet? You know what his response always was? We're closer than when we started. I was always like, thanks, Dad. That is not helpful, right? In business, we want to make sure that we can see that I'm making measurable progress, right? We want a roadmap for multiplying our RODI, our return on time invested, right? That isn't costing us our energy or our peace or our presence with the people and things that matter most to us. And then the last part of it is we walk it out. We implement this plan with weekly accountability, right? Because who is easily distracted, right? But when you go on a walk with somebody, you're not off in the woods chasing the squirrels, right? Like you've got someone to keep you on the path, to remind you of what you said mattered. Yay, I'm glad I'm not alone, right? Like we won't have to figure it out alone. And when those shuns do come up, we have someone with us to help us see them, to help us know how to respond to them, right? And that's how we keep moving forward. That's how we finish what we start. That's how we see measurable results and keeping our faith at the center, knowing like this is where I'm going, right? Because CEO focus is really faithful time stewardship, right? And we know that when we are faithful with what we've been entrusted, the harvest is going to multiply, right? And we don't want to be like the guy who went and buried it in the ground because he was afraid it was going to get away from him, right? And then it didn't have any impact, right? We want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You have done with what I've been given you. Now here is more, right? So if you are not already a part of CEO Focus, I want to invite you to join us for the last quarter of the year. And I'm going to go through a little bit of what all that involves. I'm going to put the link in the chat here. Hopefully that will let it link all the way there. But I'm going to send you to a page where you can learn a little bit more. And then there are a whole bunch of links kind of scattered throughout there to come in and join us, right? But we are going to be spending the next 12 weeks together from now until the end of the year to really move the needle and to really see results, whether that's your 2xing where you're at right now or 8xing like I did, right? You get to choose what you want that to look like. And here's the question I know everybody's always asking is the investment. It's 297, or you can make 3 monthly payments of 97. Guaranteed that is probably less than your last Target run or Amazon haul. Be honest, right? And what do you have to show for that now? Right? Think about what it would be worth to finally get the clarity, get the focus, get the step-by-step action plan, get the accountability to truly 10x your productivity, right? Because you're not scattered and distracted by all the shuns, and 2x or more your profits because your time is actually, right, being invested in one thing long enough to produce results, right? Between now and the end of the year, right? And what I've put in here is not just a bunch of stuff I've randomly thrown together. It is everything that you need to move the needle on your Q4 goal. Now, before we dive into what that full program includes, I have something special for those of you who are live in the call or watching the replay, because I know many of you told me ahead of time, Melissa, I can't be on live. So this is a today only bonus. Okay, today only. If you join CEO Focus by midnight tonight, September 30th, you will get a 12-month one-on-one growth mapping strategy session with me. Those are worth $997. You and I are going to sit down to strategize your time and growth, not just over 12 weeks, but over the next 12 months, right? Because here's what happens when you know where you're going over the next 12 months, right? You have this very clear, actionable roadmap for the whole year. You're not guessing, you're not scrambling, you're not wondering if you're on the right track, you're not wondering what should I do next, right? This bonus alone is worth 3 times the investment of the program because it gives you the clarity and the direction and the plan that you can actually implement with support, right? Imagine starting Q4, not only knowing where am I going between now and the end of the year, but having a roadmap for the next year laid out, right? And now you've got this time growth strategy that's going to help continue to multiply your impact and your income and your productivity without adding more hours to your day because you're going to have that focus. Okay. But that is just the start, right? Because what I've done is I've put in CEO Focus, I made it really simple. I've given you everything you need to see measurable results. So what I want to do is real quick, I'm going to share my screen because I think this might be easier if you can see it versus me just say it. So let me make sure that all of our faces are out of the way. Okay. Inside CEO Focus, there are 3 foundations that we build on. The first is planning, right? And you get access to a 12-week focus plan training to help break that bigger vision into clear, actionable steps with stress-free timelines. So you know exactly what it's time for, and you're not worried about what's going to happen 2, 3, 5 weeks from now. You're just looking at what's in front of you today. And here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'll share a story in just a minute. This is not a glorified to-do list. It is a growth map. If you follow the map, right, you will produce results. You will hit your Q4 goals. You will see your time results multiply. The second thing you get is coaching, right? We have weekly accountability meetings. We call them WAMs, where we start each week with intention. You walk away with a plan, and you know you've got someone with you to help you stay on track, even when life throws curveballs. Curveballs, anyone? Anyone experience curveballs, right? Like we need a weekly reset to get us refocused because we can sometimes get distracted, right? What happens is when too much time happens and we're distracted, then we're off in the weeds and off in the ditch, right? So we're going to make sure that you're back on track with what you said mattered, right? And we're going to save you time and protect your focus and maximize those results. And the last thing you get is support, right? Where you are getting access to a private inner circle community where 24/7 you can ask questions, share about roadblocks or unexpected life happen moments, right? So that way you don't lose momentum or waste time or feel stuck trying to figure it all out, right? These 3 foundations alone will help you get to the finish line on a 12-week project or goal. This is exactly how I have broken down everything that I've wanted to build in my business ever since that time that I 8x'd my results. This is how I've been able to do it because I just got really clear and I created CEO Focus with these 3 foundational pieces. But I also wanted to share a few extra little juicy bonuses for those of you who decide you want to join us. So again, if you decide to join today, you're going to get that one-on-one with me where we're going to map out the next year, right? That is worth, like I said, 3 times what coming into the program is. You're also going, if you join us by October 7th, which is next Tuesday, you will get an invitation to a 12-week planning intensive. How many of us have said, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that. And then we don't ever get the time to do it, right? I just had this conversation with some gals in our community last night. We have a time each month that we get on Zoom together and we actually plan out the next month. And I asked them at the end, what was beneficial for you tonight? You know what every single one of them said? Time set aside to do this, right? So for those of you coming into CEO Focus, and if you're already in, you're welcome to come back again. Okay, we are going to actually set aside time to get her done together. So that way you have a clear plan. You know exactly where it is that you're going and where you're focusing on. And then we are going to be doing some networking collaboration events, and our next one is next week. So you definitely want to make sure that you jump in by Tuesday to come to the live intensive and also to get an invitation to that networking event, which is not just a pitch fest. How many of us have shown up to pitch fests? And then you've got all these people that just want you to buy my stuff, and you're like, I didn't really make any connections, and I don't really know anything about them. They tried to sell me something. I'm structuring these in a way that you will actually build collaborative type relationships and get to know people and really see how there can be opportunities for you to work together. Okay, so why now? Well, we're heading into Q4. We can't get back time back, right? But we can choose to do something different as we step into the rest of this year. Okay, so as we're finishing up, I just want to remind you, or at least share with you, for those of you who work with me, you know this, but some of you haven't yet, that what we do isn't just time management. If you have tried the planners, the courses, all the systems out there, anyone, right? Maybe you even read the one thing in the 12-week year, right? You know how far it gets you. Maybe you have clarity for a moment. Maybe you checked a few boxes or you felt motivated for a week, but somehow results don't stick and you just are always spinning your wheels. This is where this is different with CEO Focus because we're not about keeping time from getting away. We're about strategically investing the time God has given us to multiply our impact, right? Which is going to increase our income, and we are going to see measurable results in our business and life and for the kingdom. So, whatever your one thing is, whether it's launching that signature program or building a lead generating system or finishing that book or creating systems that finally free up your time, like this, having CEO Focus and having this program to support you is going to unlock growth in every area. I love it. Tried color coordinating all the planners and still on the hamster wheel. Yes, because it's not actually getting to what the real root of the problem is, which always starts in our heart, right? And comes from a place of stewardship, not just management, right? And as stewards, we need to have clarity, we need to have strategy, and we need to have accountability. So it's not magic, but most people aren't doing it, right? This is, like I said, the missing key that turns every good idea, every effort, every plan you ever tried into something that actually works. Because when our focus is aligned with what God has for us in our business, everything else multiplies, right? And just a couple weeks ago, when we were coming off one of those weekly accountability calls, I asked the women who are on there, like, what results are you seeing already? Some of them had just jumped in. Here's some of the things they shared with me, and I'm directly quoting these, okay? This is not Lissa saying it. Lissa, this is helping me get clarity and take needle moving steps. How many of you are lacking clarity and don't feel like you've moved the needle in a while? Lissa, this is keeping me focused on where I need to be and helping my brain focus on what it's time for in order to grow, right? How many of us like, woo, we're all over the place, right? No wonder nothing's happening. Lissa, this is giving me a clear plan to beat the overwhelm, the shuns, right? And see measurable progress towards my 12-week goal. Like so many of us are doing a lot, but not seeing measurable progress. Lissa, this is helping me feel more focused and productive in every area. Lissa, this is what's helped me make more progress in the last week and a half than the last 6 months. I love this, right? I'm going to share a story with you. In fact, you're going to hear her story more deeply on Monday. I'm doing a podcast episode. One of my clients, her name is Lori. She came to me with a big name book contract. Okay. She was working with Penguin House Publishers. We're not talking just, some small company, like a big name book contract. And she was very excited, but she was also completely overwhelmed. And guess what? She read the 12-week year. And she even drafted what she thought was a 12-week plan using what they taught her in here. But you know what she told me? It was a glorified to-do list that left her paralyzed. She literally told me, Lissa, I didn't feel like I could breathe. There were so many tasks, so many moving parts, so many deadlines. It was almost like she didn't know where to start. And she didn't have time to waste because she had a date that was set by this company of November 11th, right? Does it sound familiar? Have you ever stared at a plan or a project and it felt like it was way too much to handle? Like no matter how hard you try, you'll never get it all done. Yes, right? We've all been in that place. And when Lori first shared her plan with me, right, not only did she not feel like she could breathe, she just felt busy all the time. And she felt trapped by all the things that she had to keep doing and all the moving pieces, right? So let me ask, are you feeling trapped by those very goals and projects that are supposed to help you grow? So many of us fall into that. That was where I was stuck for so long. I see so many business owners feeling like overwhelmed and suffocated by that. right? But when Lori stepped into CEO Focus, she found clarity, right? We identified her one thing. We helped her get her book launch like figured out so she would actually move the needle and impact her readers. She knew why this thing mattered. And then she leveraged that growth strategy. We broke this big launch plan into a 12-week, week by week action plan with realistic deadlines. And each week had clear priorities that had her on track, right? Where it wasn't like all of a sudden something was happening next week and she wasn't prepared for it. There's no guesswork, there's no overwhelm, and she finally has the support she needs because she's still in the middle of this right now because she gets weekly accountability. She gets inner circle coaching. She has a place where she can ask questions when unexpected life things come up, which has happened. And you know what I love? Lori is not only on track to finish her book launch on time, she also has margin to live life fully. She's had time to take a weekend trip without guilt. She's had time to play with her grandkids. She's had time to go on dates with her husband. She's even had time to retreat to her cabin for reflection or refreshment, all while staying on track with her business goals. Right? So you're going to get to hear more of her story on Monday's podcast. So you can hear it straight from her when she says, like, Lissa, I could not have done this on my own. So I just want to ask you a couple questions. If you had a plan that actually worked like that, what could you accomplish in the next 12 weeks? Where are you in your business feeling trapped by tasks or projects that aren't actually moving the needle and are just kind of like making you feel overwhelmed? And what would it feel like to launch or create or finish that one thing in your business before the end of the year without sacrificing all your time or all your peace or all your energy? Right? I love Lori's story shows us the difference between a glorified to-do list and a CEO focused plan isn't just productivity, it's stewardship, right? It's taking the time that we've been entrusted and investing it in ways that multiply our results, in ways that expand our impact, in ways that give God glory through our work, right? And in the meantime, having peace, knowing that we have more than enough time for what you're called to. She's like, Lissa, that is going through my head all the time, that I have time, and this is exactly what God has called me to, and I'm not in charge. So this could be exactly to wrap this up, what could describe your Q4 too, right? CEO Focus is a 12-week coaching accountability program designed to help you finally move the needle on that Q4 goal, not someday, not next year, but right now. But it's not for everybody, okay? So as I was thinking about this morning, I thought, you know what? This is for women who want to actually see measurable growth in their business and their results. This is for women who can take and are willing to take consistent action and execute, right, what needs to be done. This is for women who know how to show up and they're ready to finish the year strong. This is for women that are committed to multiplying their impact and their profits for God's glory. But it's not for women who want a quick fix, right? Who just want the easy button. It's simple, like I said, but it does require some work. But when you have focus, that work is not quite so hard as it feels right now, right? This is not for women who don't care about seeing real results. And that's okay. Like, I'm not here to judge where you are in your business, and what results look like will that vary based on what level of business you're in and what your goals are. Right. So it's not like I have to be, I have to be working to hit 100K or 500K or something like that. Like maybe you just want to get $500 because you know that will be the fruit of you making an impact in that many lives, right? This is not for someone who's not committed to finishing what they start, right? This is for the people that know God has called me to this and I want to see this expand, right? So every day we wait without having focus, what happens? Our time gets spent, right? Which means we're not getting much back in return, right? Instead of invested, where there is a return. And every scattered, distracted day is lost potential, potential to be 10 times more productive and 2 times or more profitable, right? How would that feel, right? And I want to speak to you. If you're still on here with me today, you might be thinking like, okay, this sounds great, Lissa, but I'm already in another program. Okay. Or maybe like, I'm just too busy right now. It's almost the holidays. Okay. Or maybe like, I'm just going to wait till next year. Okay. I get it. I've been in all those places, but here's the truth. That's exactly why you need CEO Focus, because this isn't just another program. It's not about cramming more to-dos into an already overflowing plate. CEO Focus isn't about keeping time from getting away. It's stewarding the time we have. In fact, I have women who are using CEO Focus to help them get the most out of other investments they've made, where they've invested with a coach or into a program, and they're not seeing the traction because they're so distracted, right? And they don't have that focus, right? And if you're already in that other program, like, are you actually able to implement what they're teaching you? How could having these kind of tools help you to really be able to do what it is that they're teaching you to do instead of being so scattered across so many shiny objects, right? We're going to give you the roadmap and the accountability to actually execute. So that way you're going to get measurable results from the work you're doing or the investments you're making. And if you're too busy, can I just say in love, like that's exactly why you need to be here. Because without a plan, you will always feel busy. Your time will always be stolen by the five shuns, right? Expectations, obligations, interruptions, distractions, procrastination, right? We could probably list more, right? This is what helps you reclaim your schedule, create margin, actually finish what matters, like even when your week or your month or your quarter feels packed. And if you're tempted to wait until the new year, I just want you to consider this. Your business, and really this is true in any area of life, is about 90 days behind where you are right now, right? So what results you're seeing right now is because of what you were doing back in June, right? So don't feel bad if you weren't planting seeds or watering them or giving consistent focus back then. So, but what you can do is change what you're doing moving forward, right? So instead of waiting to January, the results you're going to reap in January will be because of what you choose to do starting now in October, right? So I don't know about you, but like, why postpone growth that can happen, right? If I can do something about it now. If over the next 12 weeks, I can invest my time in what's going to move the needle so that I'm way more productive and that time is producing even more roadie, right? And here's the thing, CEO focus isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right things, right? So we have that. So, and here's what I want you to do. Get to December 31st, right? I want you to envision right now, what do you want to be true about your business? What do you want to be true about your business on December 31st? As everyone else is, saying, well, so much for that goal I set last year. Let's try again, right? And they're not going to get anywhere, most of them, right? Because none of that happens by accident. The only way to actually see the growth is to have clear and consistent and confident CEO focus and a plan and a system that helps put everything together so that we can actually move the needle. Okay. So I hope you're seeing that focus is the solution, right? Because the only way to stop spinning your wheels and stop chasing shiny objects and finally see results that matter is when you have focus. And those shuns have been silently stealing your time, your energy, and your profits longer than you probably realize it. You've probably felt it, right? You felt frustrated because you're putting in lots of hours, you're checking lots of boxes, but still not moving the needle. But guess what? That stops now. Okay. And CEO focus is the antidote because it's not about keeping time from getting away. It's about what we are doing, right, to multiply the results of it. And when you get crystal clear on your one thing, then every action moves the needle. And when you have a clear 12-week roadmap, right, you're going to have stress-free timelines so things aren't falling through the cracks. And when you can walk it out with like actual real live, real-time support, then you're going to stay on track no matter what life brings. Like this is how we reclaim hours that have been lost to the shuns in the past. This is how we turn those good intentions, another shun, right, into measurable results. This is how we finally finish not just a quarter, but a year, right? Or just be faithful with what God has given us. So I can't wait to see December 31st how you are celebrating having reached whatever that finish line is that you want to put out there and done all of it without burnout. How? Because you're focused and supported and strategic every step of the way. That, my friend, think back into Fine Glass. That is the power of CEO focus. And that's the power of stewardship. And that's the difference between being a busyness owner who's scattered all over the place, right? And showing up like a CEO who's creating intentional growth that multiplies your time and your impact and your income. So here's my question for you. And if you're willing, drop this in the chat because I would love to see, because there's something about not just thinking about it, but writing it down and sharing it with others. What do you want to be true about your business 12 weeks from now? What do you want to be true about your business 12 weeks from now? Because here's the truth. The only way it happens is with CEO focus. And when you start focusing your time on that thing, you will see results. And that's why I'm super excited to be able to do this together. So I will drop the link in here one more time for anyone who's still on live who has not joined us over there. Remember, you've got that today only bonus that if you jump in by midnight tonight, you get a strategy session with me where we are going to map out your next year. And then we'll clarify, okay, what's the first 12-week cycle of that? And you'll be able to be part of our workshop next week and our networking event. So what would you love to see? I've successfully launched my new membership and have made a minimum of 25K. I love it. So good. I know you're thinking, Wanda, about what that is. So thanks you guys for being here. I'm here to answer questions. If you have them, if you're on live, you can always reach out to me if you have questions as well. Next book draft written, love it, right? Doesn't matter how big or how small it feels to you. Like if this is what God is calling you to, it matters. And being able to move the needle towards that means that you are making a bigger impact, right? Getting these systems in place, yes, right? So how that is going to, make a big difference because now you're going to be so much more effective and efficient with your time. I love it. I love it. Verify the cost, yes. So Melissa, it's 297, or at checkout you can choose payment options. So if you break it down over 3 months, it's 97 a month, which I know is crazy, but it's what I want. I just felt like the Lord was like, make it something that's way too easy for someone to say yes to and come in and join us. Um, it might say 497 like was the original price because it was. But if you're not, if it should at checkout show you the 297. And then, like I said, at checkout, you can choose one of the payment options if you want to. There is not a code. But Melissa, if you have any issues in trying to check out and it's not showing you 297 when you are actually at the checkout part, send me a message and I will make sure that we get you in for that 297. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I will make sure that I send out the replay if you want to listen back to this. And congratulations to those of you who made it to the end. If you only were on the replay, because most people don't do replays. And so that says a lot about you and your focus and your desire to really see the growth happen over the next 12 weeks. So I'm excited to see what God does, and I'll talk to you soon.